Welcome to episode 2 of Live on Lanier, a monthly podcast brought to you by the Board of Directors of the Lake Lanier Association. Live on Lanier is a program specifically for members of the Lake Lanier Association or those who are thinking about joining. We'd love to have you come on board. We hope to cover timely topics on every one of our shows. This month, we'll be introducing you to LLA Board Member Bev Nicholls. Bev is in charge of Adopt a Lake and our water testing programs. Did you know Lake Lanier ranks as one of the cleanest lakes in the state of Georgia every year? With the 4th of July holiday upon us, we also have Sergeant Tim Butler with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. There are a lot of laws on the books you may or may not be aware of. For example, if you were born after 1/1/1998 and are over 16 years old, did you know you had to have a Georgia driver's permit to be able to operate a boat on the lake? There's also a new 200-foot rule, and he'll explain the importance of keeping to the right. We'll also tell you how you can get your Lake Lanier Association gear with a 10% discount and a free LLA license plate. So stay tuned for Life on Lanier, podcast brought to you by the Board of Directors of the Lake Lanier Association. The Lake Lanier Association has launched an online merchandise shop. Find it at llauoutfitters.org. That's llauoutfitters.org. Once you go on the site, you'll find a wide variety of great different items like t-shirts with a different color for everyone in the family. Get one for everyone in matching colors or in their own individual colors. You'll also find long sleeve t-shirts, sweatshirts, all kinds of fall and winter gear, everything you need for summer, a day on the golf course, or a great time out on the water. Wear your LLA gear with pride. For a limited time, we're offering 10% off with the purchase code LLA10. That's good on bags, ball caps, everything you'll find on the site. And for purchases of $75 or more, get a free Lake Lanier Association license plate. Go to llauoutfitters.org and get your gear today. Well, welcome back to Live on Lanier. We're joined right now by Bev Nicholls. She's a board member of the Lake Lanier Association and been involved in some really cool stuff for a long time. Bev, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for asking.
Tell us how you first got involved with the Lake Lanier Association.
I don't remember the reason, but we love living on the lake. So I guess I read about it and started going to the meetings and joined the board not too much longer after I got involved with the testing on the lake. That became, they had been testing for a couple of years, and then it became a bigger project and in '02. And I got involved then and have been involved ever since.
Well, you bring some expertise and educational background into this type of testing program as well.
A little bit, yes. I have worked in hospital as well as some research labs.
How about that? Well, tell us about the testing program on Lake Lanier. You may or may not know this has been going on for more than 20 years.
Yes, started in 2000, and we still have one lady that has been testing since 2000.
How about that? That's
And
really exciting.
yeah, it is. And wonderful volunteers, absolutely phenomenal.
I was going to bring that up a little later, but let's go ahead and address the volunteers. They've been coming in and out, bringing you samples here this morning while we're getting ready to record this. Tell us about how many volunteers you have and how many people it takes to really make this work every single month.
We have 20 volunteers that are very faithful about testing every month. We have one fellow that tests 4 sites.
Wow.
Most everyone does 1, and we have a few that do 2 and one that does 3. So, and every single month, including winter.
They're out there testing. And I was really impressed the first time I looked at the map of all the testing sites. You literally cover both rivers from the top all the way to the dam.
Yes, we do. Cover the whole thing.
Tell us why this testing is so important.
Well, because the state doesn't test in the winter, and
Mhm.
it is a southern reservoir, so we don't get much cooler than 40 degrees.
Mhm.
And we're also the eyes on the lake because most everyone lives very close to the site they're testing.
Mhm.
So it is important to see what's going on at any time, especially after, say, a heavy rain or when the lake's down or even high.
You know, I was thinking about this driving in here. I hope I remember this correctly. It's been more than 20 years ago, but the Lake Lanier Association was pivotal in bringing to the state's attention that some DOT projects were actually letting a lot of silt get into Lake Lanier and ended up mitigating that circumstance and going back and making things right in the long run. But it all started from the eyes and ears and volunteers of the Lake Lanier Association.
Yes, it does.
So tell us about the testing process. How exactly does that work?
Okay, once a month, we have a dedicated week that we all test during that week. And what they do is they go down to they're either the boat or some of test off of docks. And we have a wand that we use to get water at about 18 inches below the surface.
Is that what Wanda's purpose
That's
is
for
here?
Wanda's
We're
purpose.
going to sneak her into the conversation. Now, she's a little, she's got a pretty big hair thing on top of there, so it pokes through the ceiling if I try to get it all the way up there. But we'll
Right,
give you a look at how Wanda operates there.
right,
So you dip her down in the lake
right.
and
And to about here. And we take a water sample and we take a temperature. We do weather observations as well. And then we go back up with our water sample. We use about a liter of water, a little over a quart. And we take it back, put a filter in our filtering apparatus and filter it, and then take the filter off, and we send that to the Gwinnett lab that does our analysis for chlorophyll, which is a nutrient. You want a little bit of nutrient to have fish, but you don't want too much because that hurts the fish then if you get too much and takes some of the oxygen out of the water.
sure. And then, of course, nutrients, when you have too much, they're the leading cause of algae blooms growing out of
Yes.
control
Yeah.
and algae issues all over the lake. Has algae been a problem in Lake Lanier?
On occasion, considering really it is not terribly bad, but we need to keep it at a very, very low level.
Well, of course, one of the ways of knowing what's going on is doing this testing. And
Testing.
you've got 25 different sites from one end of the lake to the other on all sides, all shorelines. And amazingly, you do this every month, 12 months out of the year with all volunteer help.
Yes.
That's terrific. Now, what happens after you get the testing all done and it goes to Gwinnett? What kind of information comes back?
Okay, we get the chlorophyll reading, and then we also do a Secchi, which is a measure of clarity.
So beyond that technical testing that you're having done at the Gwinnett labs, you're also looking at water clarity. How do you go about doing that?
Well, we drop a weighted disc into the water and you measure how far you can see it in the water. And this gives us a visual of clarity. It was started in the 1800s, right outside of Rome.
That's interesting. And you called that a Secchi?
Uh-huh. Secchi.
Oh, I was thinking just a Secchi, but we'll go into that when I'm talking to my kids again.
Uh,
So at the end of all of this, there's a monthly report that gets produced. That's, by the way, is published on the Lake Lanier Association website. You
yes.
can see it at lakelanier.org, at lakelanier.org every single month. Some really fascinating information on there if you know how to read it. Can you give us a real brief background on how this works and how to read it?
Is we give you first of all, is our temperature. And we give you what happened last month and the year before. And occasionally, if something was really interesting several years before, since we've been doing this since, let's see, this started in '08, and we improved it somewhat, I think, in 16.
Gotcha.
But anyway, it gives you what happened as far as temperature, lake level. We've now added average rain or the rainfall that we had for the month. And we give you the Secchi readings. We do an average of section A, B, and C. A is above Brownsbridge. B is from Brownsbridge to 4 Mile over to Aqualand. And C is south of that area down to the dam. And then we give an overall average. And then we also do the same readings for chlorophyll that we get the information from Gwinnett Water Lab.
So the chlorophyll effect is when you're reading
Um,
for chlorophyll, what is that telling us?
Again, it is a measure of nutrients. You
Nutrients,
don't
okay.
want too much.
Right. Okay. So how's the lake looking this year?
I think it's looking pretty good. In fact, this month we had very good Secchi readings so far. And last month they weren't too bad either. And the chlorophyll was in a moderate amount.
That's
Or lower.
terrific. Well, that's great. Well, again, this is all so important in that there's a historical record. So if something does start getting out of whack, and what we've seen over the course of more than 2 decades now, there's a record to be able to go back and look and see, hey, if there's
Yes.
something going on, so the investigation can work backwards from that.
Yes, yes, and we can say, okay, we're real concerned about this.
Well, that's just another great reason to come out and support the Lake Lanier Association. It's just one of the many programs that we have going on to help protect life on Lake Lanier. Would you like to say anything to any of your volunteers that are in here every month doing this for us?
A big thank you. They are unbelievable of their dedication. Each one of them. I mean, it is tremendous. I mean, they never miss.
I was pretty excited when they came in. Each and every one of them was just like excited to be part of the program and happy to be helping out. Great for the Lake Lanier Association, great for Lake Lanier, and it's great having you as a board member and running this whole thing for us for so long. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you too, Kirby.
Sure. We'll be back with more from the Department of Natural Resources and 4th of July boating safety right after this.
Bye-bye.
Lake Lanier Association's initiative for a clean lake preserves and protects Lake Lanier for everyone with programming and education resources like our annual shore sweep cleanup, our Adopt a Lake water testing program, erosion and sedimentation monitoring, abandoned dock and boat removal, and our Clean Lake Pledge. Learn more about the work of the Lake Lanier Association or how to become a member, a volunteer, or to donate at lakelanier.org.
Well, we're back with Officer Tim Butler from the Department of Natural Resources. We're actually recording this right before 4th of July holiday rolls up on Lake Lanier. So it's a great time to talk about boating safety in the lake. Tim, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
You've been doing this for 19 years. Give us a little idea of your background and all the different areas you've covered in the state of Georgia.
Okay, I started in 2005. After I went through our academy, they stationed me in Savannah, so I was a saltwater game warden at the time. Patrolled offshore. We go out to as far as 100 miles offshore. Stayed there a little less than a year. I went to Pulaski County down in South Georgia. Spent 6 years there. Went to Savannah. Spent 11 years. I've been on Lake Lanier for over a year now.
Wow, that's great. Well, welcome to Lake Lanier. I hope the neighborhood's being kind to you.
Yep, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, with 4th of July coming up, let's talk about the DNR and their role in boating safety on Lake Lanier.
Okay, I mean our number one priority is to keep people safe on the lake. So we're actively out there on weekdays, weekends, and our primary function is to make sure people are safe. We do a lot of boating stops. Obviously, if we see you breaking the law, we're going to stop you.
Sure.
Check your safety equipment. One of our major concerns on the lake is stopping impaired operators.
Sure. Well, a lot of people don't realize there's a DUI and there's a BUI, boating under the influence.
Right.
And the penalties are severe for either one, particularly if something goes really wrong.
That's correct.
Okay, so we know you're going to be checking for that. But again, the main role is trying to help everybody understand how to play nice and follow the rules of the road to keep it safe out on the lake.
That's correct.
What would you say under those rule of the road violations? What are the most common things that people may or may not be aware of, but can be a real problem for boating safety?
There's a lot of different stuff we come across that a lot of people, when we stop them, they appear as if they don't even know what the law is. Like rules of the road, for instance. If you're going up the channel, you're supposed to stay on the right side of the channel. Just like if you're on the highway, you stay on the right side of the highway. You don't cut to the left in front of somebody.
Right.
You're supposed to veer to the right, and that's actually against the law. Other problems we have a lot of is people violating 100-foot rules, where they go within 100 foot of people's docks, 100 foot of swimmers, 100 foot of boats that are anchored down, swimming areas, bridge pilings, anything that's a recreational area like that. It's 100 foot. You got to be out of speed within 100 foot of it, and obviously that's a safety hazard, but a lot of people don't even realize that.
Sure. And a lot of it's common sense safety, but boy, when people get out on the lake and they get all excited and then they get going, particularly when they're riding a personal watercraft, a PWC or a jet ski, as they're more commonly called, sometimes they just get a little bit goofy.
That's correct. And I would say we get more citizen complaints off personal watercrafts than any other type of vessel. And the majority of those complaints is people violating the 100-foot rule.
Sure. So the 100-foot rule doesn't just apply to docks. It applies to other boats. It applies to park boats. It applies to marinas. It applies to just about anywhere where you could go and actually hurt somebody.
That's correct. I mean, if somebody's swimming in the water, if a boat is sitting still, you can't be within 100 foot above idle speed in a PWC or a boat.
So another thing I think a lot of people are not aware of, but it's very important, and it's actually the law here in the state of Georgia. If you're born after January 1st, 1998, the rules have changed.
That's correct. When you turn 16, if you were born after January 1st, 1998, you cannot drive a boat in the state of Georgia without taking a boater education course. Now, you can take the boater education course at goboatgeorgia.com, which is our DNR website. I believe it's actually free if you're under 16. If you're over 16, there's a small fee. It's not much money, but when that law came into effect in 2014, so when we catch people that are between the ages of 16 and now I believe it would be 26 years old driving a boat, we're generally issuing citations for that. Because the whole point of the law is to keep people safe, make sure they understand the boating laws and rules.
And it's not that difficult or complicated to find and take the test.
It's not. Just go to goboatgeorgia.com.
Okay. I've got a daughter that may fall into that. I was just sitting here thinking about that as we were talking. But as you said, the rule's been on the books for 10 years now. It's really time everybody catch up and get on
That's
board with
correct.
that. It's always been interesting to me and how many different states actually fight it. But you don't throw a 16-year-old in a car on the highway without them having gone a certain amount of training and specific safety rules that you're sure they're aware of. Why wouldn't we want the same thing on the lake?
And that's correct. And I could almost argue that a boat could be as dangerous or more dangerous than a car. A boat doesn't have brakes you can slam on to stop. So
There's no clear white lines to follow on the highway.
there's not. So uneducated boaters are dangerous.
Speaking of clear white lines, you mentioned it earlier, and it's my own personal pet peeve. The idea of keeping right. Why is keep to the right such an important safety factor for everybody who's boating?
Well, because if you turn to the left in front of somebody, it's a lot of times it's going to cause a collision. We've already had several this year on Lake Lanier where the person turned the wrong way in front of somebody. They're meeting head on instead of just veering or keeping to the right. They turn left and a collision ensued.
And if everybody stays on the right side, including coming from the other direction, you're always going to pass each other on the right side. That one guy that gets on the wrong side, you could be coming around a peninsula together, and suddenly you're looking at head on instead of a safe passing zone between each one.
And that's correct. It's not just when two boats are coming at each other head on, you veer to the right. You should already be on the right side of the channel. Say you're going up the Chestatee River, you need to be traveling on the right side of the channel as you go up the river, even if there's no boats around.
Thank you for that. I always, when I'm teaching people to drive, I ask them to picture an imaginary line that goes right down the middle. Make sure you stay on the right side of that line.
That's correct.
That's going to keep you safe most of the time. Now, the 100-foot rule changes a little bit if you're out there wake surfing or wakeboarding, right?
It does. It basically turns into a 200-foot rule. So if you're going by a dock and you're wake surfing, you need to stay 200 foot away. Reason being, wake boats generate a larger wake and they damage people's property and docks. So
Right. I know some of the people in the surfing clubs on the lake are out there really promoting education for wakeboarders. So if you haven't found any of those groups yet, find them. They're all over. The Atlanta Surf Club here on Lake Lanier has been really strong at promoting safe wakeboarding and safe wake surfing. It's a very popular sport. It's really grown in popularity. Also very popular, and my wife and I have a tri-tune out there, and we've got more life jackets than three people can wear, but life jackets are incredibly important. What are the actual rules and regulations specifically in regard to kids and age groups for life jackets on a boat?
all children under 13 years old in a moving vessel have to have a life jacket on, unless they're inside a fully enclosed cabin. That would be like if they're inside the living room of a houseboat, they don't have to wear it. But if they're in just a regular boat, like a ski boat or a pontoon, they have to have it on when the boat's in motion.
Sure.
If you also have to have a wearable life jacket for each person on the boat. So if you have a person that's really, really large and you have regular size life jackets, that don't count. It has to be one that fits that person. So it's the operator or the captain's responsibility before he goes out to make sure that he has a life jacket on that boat that fits each person.
I'm glad you said it that way. That's one of those things the Lake Lanier Association likes to promote is the operator of that vessel is considered the captain of the vessel, and responsible for the safety of everyone aboard their vessel.
That's correct.
And if something goes wrong, that's exactly the way the law is going to look at it as well.
That's correct. And also, they're supposed to have a Type 4 throwable device, which is another personal flotation device. It's usually a square cushion or a ring buoy. They sell them at most of your marine stores, Academy Sports, Walmart, Marina sell them. They're not very expensive. It's made to throw to somebody that falls out of a boat and they're too far to throw a life jacket. If you're in a Class 1 vessel, which is any vessel 16 foot or longer, you're required to have one of those on the boat.
Very cool. Okay, well, what else can we help remind people so that everybody has the opportunity for the safest 4th of July we've ever had on Lake Lanier?
Of course, 4th of July is probably the busiest weekend on all the lakes in Georgia, not just Lake Lanier. And on 4th of July, there's a lot of fireworks shows on the lake. One problem we see is people go to these fireworks shows and they turn their lights off in their boats. And it's all these boats are congregated in one area, and the fireworks end, everybody fires up their motors and leaves, and people forget to turn their lights on. That's one of the most dangerous things on the lake is to not have your navigational lights on. And we see a lot of people that go out there and they go to like a restaurant and they get there in the afternoon and eat dinner. When they go to leave, they realize their lights don't work. You need to, if you plan on being out after dark, inspect your lights and make sure they work before you go out.
Sure.
And the number one most dangerous thing on the lake is alcohol. If you're going to drink, don't drive. Make sure you got a designated driver.
It's that simple, and people don't think of it if they don't have experience with it. But with the intense heat and being right on the water where the sun is reflecting and you get in that heat dome thing, less beer than might have affected you sitting in your backyard is going to have a bigger effect on you sitting out on the lake. So the best idea is be the designated driver. That means 0 alcohol for the day that you're operating.
That's correct. Now, a lot of people don't realize that the limit is a 0.08. If you get in a wreck or we deem you a less safe operator, you can be arrested for DUI at a 0.05.
There you go. So,
which is not a lot of alcohol.
Word to the wise, safe is, you'll never be sorry being safe. One other quick topic to cover is the rules change a little bit if you're approaching a boat that's under sail.
Yes, and the boat under sail is going to take that priority in that situation because the boat under sail cannot just simply turn and stop as easy as a motorboat. So you got to give way to the boat under sail.
Sure. Well, the great rule of thumb, stay sober, stay to the right. And you know what? There's no harm in just slowing down and letting things clear a little bit in front of you. You don't have to be the first one to get through or pace everything. Just you're on the lake, relax, back down, have a little fun out there.
And that's oftentimes what I do when I'm out there driving is I'll just stop and go slow when there's a lot of boats around. Getting in a hurry is just going to cause more problems. So just slow down.
So anything else we want to remind everybody before the big holiday season gets here?
Just everybody just keep safe. Make sure you got all your safety equipment before you go out. Make sure your lights work and make sure you have a designated driver if you want to drink.
And if they want to have a little bit of a refresher or figure out where to go to take that boating safety course so that they are passed under this new law that goes back to 1198, where would they go for that?
They can go to the DNR website, goboatgeorgia.com, and there'll be a link on the top for boating, and you click on it, and they'll have boating education on there.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We hope it's our best, safest 4th of July ever, and we'll look forward to having you back to talk about some more boating safety ideas further down.
I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Have a great day.
Lake Lanier Association strives to keep Lake Lanier safe for the 12 million people who use it for recreational enjoyment each year. We promote safe boating through our installation and maintenance of 300 solar lights on Lanier for safer boating after dark, and with our life jacket learner stations and promoting safety courses. The Lake Lanier Association is committed to educate and protect all who visit the lake each year. Learn more about the work of the Lake Lanier Association at lakelanier.org.